Chapter 1. The Seeds of Courage. The morning sun painted golden streaks across Maplewood's rolling landscape, casting long shadows over the sprawling fields that seemed to embrace the small town like a protective blanket. 13-year-old Danny Harper stood at the edge of his family's front porch, his keen eyes scanning the familiar horizon that had been his playground and classroom since childhood. Danny was different from most kids in Maplewood. Where others saw ordinary streets and familiar faces, he saw potential. Potential for adventure, for kindness, for making a difference. His parents, Mark and Alina Harper, had always encouraged his curious nature, nurturing a spirit of compassion that ran deep in their family. "Danny, breakfast is ready," his mother called from inside the house. Her voice carried the warmth of freshly baked bread and the gentle encouragement that had become a hallmark of their relationship. As he stepped inside, Danny's backpack was already loaded with books, not just textbooks, but stories of heroes, of ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. His room was a testament to his growing passion for reading, with shelves overflowing with dog-eared novels and inspirational biographies. At school, Danny wasn't the typical star athlete or class president. He was the kid who would sit with a younger student struggling with homework or help the new kid find their way around. His classmates sometimes teased him, calling him a goody-two-shoes, but Danny never let their words discourage him. One crisp autumn morning, that opportunity for kindness presented itself unexpectedly. During recess, Tommy Peterson, the class bully, was picking on Jimmy Rodriguez, a smaller kid who had recently transferred to their school. While other students watched or looked away, Danny approached the scene with a calm determination that belied his 13 years. "Hey, Tommy," Danny called out, his voice steady and clear. "Why don't you pick on someone your own size?" Tommy turned, surprised by the challenge. He was used to intimidating others, not being confronted. "Mind your own business, Harper," he growled. But Danny stood his ground. "This is my business," he responded. "Bullying isn't okay, and you know it." The confrontation drew the attention of a nearby teacher, who intervened. But the message was clear. Danny wasn't afraid to stand up for what was right, regardless of the consequences. At home that evening, Danny's parents listened intently as he recounted the day's events. His father, a local carpenter known for his integrity, smiled with pride. "You did the right thing, son," Mark said, ruffling Danny's hair. "Courage isn't about being the strongest or the loudest. It's about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves." Elena added, her eyes sparkling with love. "Your grandfather always said that true strength is measured by how you treat others." The Harper household was more than just a home. It was a classroom of compassion. Every dinner conversation, every shared moment was an opportunity to learn about empathy, community, and the power of small acts of kindness. Maplewood itself seemed to breathe with a similar spirit. It was a town where neighbors knew each other by name, where community mattered more than individual achievements. The local diner, the small library, the community center, each was a thread in the tight-knit fabric of their town. As night fell and Danny prepared for bed, he pulled out his latest book, a collection of stories about everyday heroes. His fingers traced the words, his imagination already dancing with possibilities of how he might make a difference. Little did Danny know that these early seeds of courage, planted by his family, nurtured by his community, and watered by his own compassionate spirit, would grow into something extraordinary. The town of Maplewood was about to witness the beginning of a remarkable journey. The bedside lamp cast a warm glow, illuminating Danny's determined face as he read late into the night. Outside, the stars twinkled over the quiet streets of Maplewood, watching over a young boy who was destined to become much more than anyone could imagine. Chapter 2. Discovery of Passion. The library had always been Danny Harper's sanctuary, but something changed that summer afternoon. Sunlight streamed through the large windows of Maplewood Public Library, casting a warm glow on the rows of books that seemed to whisper stories of adventure and possibility. Mr. Rodriguez, the library's kind-hearted attendant, watched Danny with a knowing smile. The 13-year-old moved between shelves like a curious explorer, his fingers tracing book spines with a reverence that went beyond his years. Today, he was searching for something special, a book that could ignite the spark of purpose he felt burning inside him. "Found anything interesting?" Mr. Rodriguez called out, adjusting his reading glasses. Danny pulled out a well-worn book about ordinary people who had made extraordinary differences. "These stories are incredible," he said, his eyes lighting up. "Did you know that some of the most important changes in the world started with just one person doing something small?" The elderly librarian chuckled. He had seen many young readers pass through the library, but Danny was different. There was a determination in his eyes, a genuine desire to understand the world and make it better. "Reading isn't just about consuming stories, Danny," Mr. Rodriguez said, leaning against the circulation desk. "It's about learning, understanding, and finding the courage to act." Those words resonated deeply with Danny. His recent experience standing up to Tommy, the school bully, had shown him that courage wasn't about grand gestures, but about making the right choices, even when they were difficult. At home, Danny shared his newfound passion with his parents during dinner. His mother, Sarah, listened intently, her eyes filled with pride. "What kinds of stories are inspiring you most?" she asked, passing him the mashed potatoes. "Books about people who help their communities," Danny explained. "Firefighters, teachers, volunteers, people who make a real difference in others' lives." His father, Robert, nodded encouragingly. "Those are the real heroes, son. Not the ones in movies or comic books, but those who show up every day and care for others." As summer progressed, Danny's reading became more purposeful. He wasn't just consuming stories, he was studying them. He read about community leaders, local heroes, and individuals who had transformed their neighborhoods through simple acts of kindness. Mr. Rodriguez became more than just a library attendant. He became a mentor. He would recommend books that challenged Danny's perspective and encouraged him to think critically about the world around him. They would often discuss the stories Danny read, exploring the deeper meanings and the potential for personal action. One afternoon, while helping Danny select books, Mr. Rodriguez shared a piece of wisdom that would stay with Danny for years to come. "Knowledge without action is just information," he said. "But when you combine what you learn with a genuine desire to help, that's when real change happens." Danny's circle of friends began to notice his transformation. While other 13-year-olds were focused on video games and social media, Danny was organizing small community projects. He started a book drive for the local elementary school, collected supplies for the town's senior center, and began tutoring younger students who were struggling with reading. His passion was infectious. Other kids in Maplewood began to see community involvement not as a chore, but as an opportunity. Danny wasn't preaching or lecturing. He was simply leading by example, showing that age was no barrier to making a difference. By the end of the summer, Danny had discovered something profound. His love for reading wasn't just about enjoying stories, but about understanding the world and finding ways to improve it. The books were his guide, showing him that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. As the summer drew to a close, Danny felt a sense of purpose growing within him. He didn't know exactly what his future would hold, but he knew one thing for certain: he was going to make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. Mr. Rodriguez watched the young boy leave the library that day, a stack of books in his arms and determination in his stride. "Some kids are born to change the world," he muttered to himself, a knowing smile crossing his weathered face. Little did Danny know, his journey of courage and compassion was just beginning. Chapter 3. First Heroic Act. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Main Street as Danny Harper walked home from the library, his backpack slung over one shoulder and a stack of books cradled in his arm. The Maple Grove gas station stood quietly ahead, its familiar red and white sign a beacon in the sleepy part of town. As Danny approached, something felt different. The usual calm was interrupted by a tension that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Through the glass storefront, he noticed a man dressed in dark clothing moving erratically near the cash register. The gas station attendant, Mr. Peterson, looked tense and uncomfortable. Danny's mind raced back to the books he'd been reading about everyday heroes. Mr. Rodriguez at the library had always emphasized that courage wasn't about being fearless, but about doing the right thing, even when you're scared. His heart pounded, but he knew he couldn't simply walk away. Carefully, he set his books down behind a nearby mailbox and observed the situation. The man was clearly agitated, his hand tucked suspiciously inside his jacket, a classic sign of a potential weapon. Mr. Peterson's hands were raised, and Danny could see a tremor of fear in the older man's movements. Drawing a deep breath, Danny remembered the strategies he'd learned from his reading and community involvement. Observation, timing, and calm thinking were crucial. He pulled out his phone and discreetly dialed the local police, speaking softly to the dispatcher and describing the situation without drawing attention to himself. "Stay calm," the dispatcher's voice reassured him. "Help is on the way." The potential robber hadn't noticed Danny. His focus remained entirely on Mr. Peterson, demanding money and growing increasingly agitated. Danny knew he needed to do something to prevent the situation from escalating. Using the skills he'd developed from standing up to bullies and helping in community events, Danny formulated a plan. He intentionally dropped his backpack, creating a loud noise that momentarily distracted the would-be robber. As the man turned, Mr. Peterson seized the moment of confusion. "Hey!" Danny called out, his voice firm and clear. "Is everything okay?" The distraction was perfect. The robber momentarily lost focus, and Mr. Peterson managed to press the silent alarm beneath the counter. Danny positioned himself strategically, blocking the potential escape route while maintaining a safe distance. Within minutes, the sound of police sirens filled the air. The robber, realizing his plan was unraveling, attempted to flee, but Danny's strategic positioning and calm demeanor prevented a clean escape. The local police officers, who knew Danny from his community involvement, quickly apprehended the suspect. "That was some quick thinking, Danny," Sheriff Thompson said, patting the young teenager on the shoulder. "Not many people would have handled that situation so carefully." Mr. Peterson, visibly shaken but grateful, approached Danny. "You saved my life, son," he said, his voice crackling with emotion. "Your parents must be incredibly proud." News of Danny's heroic act spread quickly through Maplewood. By dinner time, the local diner was buzzing with conversations about the kid hero who had prevented a potentially dangerous robbery. Danny's parents listened with a mixture of pride and concern as he recounted the events. "I'm just glad everyone's safe," Danny said simply, understanding that true heroism wasn't about recognition, but about protecting others. That night, as Danny reflected on the day's events, he realized that the stories he'd read about ordinary people doing extraordinary things weren't just tales. They were blueprints for real-world action. His intervention at the gas station wasn't just about preventing a crime. It was about demonstrating that courage and community spirit could make a real difference. The experience solidified something Danny had been feeling for months. He wanted to continue finding ways to help people, to be a source of positive change in Maplewood and beyond. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of his journey. Chapter 4. Growing Involvement. The summer sun cast long shadows across Maplewood's Main Street as Danny Harper stood at the center of a bustling community book drive. His recent recognition as the kid hero had transformed from a momentary burst of excitement to a genuine opportunity to make a difference. Mr. Rodriguez, his trusted mentor from the library, watched with pride as Danny organized volunteers, assigned tasks, and coordinated the collection of books for local schools and community centers. What had started as a small initiative had quickly grown into a town-wide event that showcased Danny's emerging leadership skills. "Remember," Danny explained to a group of younger volunteers, "every book we collect is a chance for someone to discover a new world, learn something amazing, or find inspiration." His words carried the wisdom of someone far beyond his 13 years, a blend of enthusiasm and genuine compassion that had become his trademark. The book drive was just one of several community projects Danny had initiated. He had also started a tutoring program at the local community center, dedicating his afternoons to helping younger students who struggled with reading and homework. His approach was gentle but effective, breaking down complex concepts into simple, understandable chunks. Jimmy Peterson, the same student Danny had previously defended from bullying, was now one of his most dedicated tutoring assistants. The transformation was remarkable. What began as a moment of protection had blossomed into a meaningful friendship and mentorship. I never thought I could be good at helping others, Jimmy confided during a break in the tutoring session. But you showed me that everyone has something valuable to contribute. Danny's community involvement wasn't without challenges. Balancing his newfound responsibilities with schoolwork and personal time required careful planning and support from his parents. They watched with a mixture of pride and amazement as their son transformed from a curious young boy into a community leader. It's not about being a hero, Danny would often say, echoing Mr. Rodriguez's teachings. It's about being present, being kind, and doing what you can to help those around you. The town of Maplewood began to take notice. Local businesses started supporting his initiatives, donating resources for the book drive and tutoring program. The Maple Grove gas station, where Danny had previously foiled a robbery, even sponsored some of his community events. Mr. Peterson, the gas station owner, would often remark to Danny's parents, "That boy has a way of bringing people together. He sees potential where others see obstacles." As summer progressed, Danny's projects grew more ambitious. He organized a community cleanup day, coordinated a fundraiser for the local fire department, and created a mentorship program connecting high school students with younger children. His efforts weren't just about completing tasks, they were about building connections. Each project was designed to bring people together, to create a sense of community that went beyond mere geographical proximity. During one particularly memorable community event, Danny stood before a gathered crowd, explaining the importance of collective action. "Individually, we might seem small," he said, his voice steady and passionate, "but together we can create real change." The crowd, a mix of children, teenagers, and adults, listened intently. Danny's words weren't just rhetoric, they were a reflection of the actions he had already taken, the difference he had already made. As the summer drew to a close, Danny reflected on his journey. What had begun as a passion for reading and a desire to help others had transformed into something much larger, a genuine movement of community engagement and mutual support. Mr. Rodriguez approached Danny as the book drive wound down, placing a supportive hand on his shoulder. "You're creating something special here, Danny," he said quietly. "Not just projects, but hope." Danny smiled, understanding that his journey was just beginning. The seeds of community involvement he was planting would continue to grow, nurtured by kindness, courage, and an unwavering belief in the potential of ordinary people to do extraordinary things. The sun set on Maplewood, painting the sky in warm oranges and pinks. A beautiful backdrop to a day filled with connection, learning, and the boundless potential of a young person committed to making a difference. Chapter 5. Teenage Years. The hallways of Maplewood High buzzed with a familiar energy as Danny Harper navigated the complex social landscape of teenage life. Gone were the days of being simply the kid hero. Now he was a multifaceted teenager wrestling with identity, expectations, and the growing challenges of adolescence. Academic pressures mounted, but Danny remained committed to his community work. His tutoring program had expanded, and he found himself balancing schoolwork with mentoring younger students. Jimmy Peterson, once a victim of bullying, now stood beside Danny as a trusted friend and fellow community volunteer. "I never thought I'd be doing this," Jimmy admitted one afternoon while they organized study materials for the younger kids. "A year ago, I was scared of everything. Now, I'm actually helping others." Danny smiled, understanding the transformation. "It's not about being fearless," he replied. "It's about doing something even when you're scared." His reputation as a community leader grew, but it wasn't without challenges. Some classmates saw his volunteer work as uncool, teasing him about being too serious. Tommy Peterson, the same bully from elementary school, continued to make snide remarks. "Look, it's St. Danny," Tommy would mock during lunch, "here to save the world one book at a time." But Danny had learned to handle such comments with grace. Mr. Rodriguez's mentorship and his parents' unwavering support had taught him that true strength wasn't about responding to negativity, but about staying true to his values. The most significant challenge came unexpectedly during his sophomore year. Budget cuts threatened the local library's after-school programs, the very programs that had inspired Danny's community involvement. Instead of feeling defeated, he saw an opportunity. Working with Mr. Rodriguez and several supportive teachers, Danny organized a community fundraiser. He leveraged his reputation as the kid hero, not for personal glory, but to rally support. Local businesses, including the Maple Grove gas station, backed his initiative. Local officials were impressed by his strategic approach and genuine passion. This isn't just about saving a program, Danny explained during a town hall meeting. It's about preserving a space where knowledge and community intersect. Libraries aren't just about books, they're about opportunity. The fundraiser was a success, saving the after-school programs and reinforcing Danny's belief in collective action. But personal growth wasn't just about public achievements. He struggled with typical teenage uncertainties, understanding his place in the world, managing relationships, and discovering his true self. His relationship with his family remained his anchor. His parents continued to encourage his community work while also pushing him to explore his own interests and emotions. They recognized that Danny's journey was about more than just being a local hero. It was about becoming a complete, compassionate human being. Courage isn't just about grand gestures, his father would often say. It's about showing up, being honest, and treating people with respect, even when it's difficult. By the end of his sophomore year, Danny had transformed. He was no longer just the kid who had stopped a robbery or organized community events. He was becoming a young man with a nuanced understanding of service, leadership, and personal growth. As summer approached, Danny reflected on his journey. The boy who once saw heroism as a dramatic intervention now understood it as a daily commitment to kindness, learning, and community. His teenage years were teaching him that making a difference wasn't about being perfect, but about being persistent and authentic. The rolling hills of Maplewood seemed to whisper with possibility, and Danny was ready to listen, learn, and continue his journey of making the world a little bit better, one small act at a time. Chapter 5. Teenage Years. The hallways of Maplewood High buzzed with a familiar energy as Danny Harper navigated the complex social landscape of teenage life. Gone were the days of being simply the kid hero. Now he was a multifaceted teenager wrestling with identity, expectations, and the growing challenges of adolescence. Academic pressures mounted, but Danny remained committed to his community work. His tutoring program had expanded, and he found himself balancing schoolwork with mentoring younger students. Jimmy Peterson, once a victim of bullying, now stood beside Danny as a trusted friend and fellow community volunteer. "I never thought I'd be doing this," Jimmy admitted one afternoon while they organized study materials for the younger kids. "A year ago, I was scared of everything. Now, I'm actually helping others." Danny smiled, understanding the transformation. "It's not about being fearless," he replied. "It's about doing something even when you're scared." His reputation as a community leader grew, but it wasn't without challenges. Some classmates saw his volunteer work as uncool, teasing him about being too serious. Tommy Peterson, the same bully from elementary school, continued to make snide remarks. "Look, it's St. Danny," Tommy would mock during lunch, "here to save the world one book at a time." But Danny had learned to handle such comments with grace. Mr. Rodriguez's mentorship and his parents' unwavering support had taught him that true strength wasn't about responding to negativity, but about staying true to his values. The most significant challenge came unexpectedly during his sophomore year. Budget cuts threatened the local library's after-school programs, the very programs that had inspired Danny's community involvement. Instead of feeling defeated, he saw an opportunity. Working with Mr. Rodriguez and several supportive teachers, Danny organized a community fundraiser. He leveraged his reputation as the kid hero, not for personal glory, but to rally support. Local businesses, including the Maple Grove gas station, backed his initiative. Local officials were impressed by his strategic approach and genuine passion. "This isn't just about saving a program," Danny explained during a town hall meeting. "It's about preserving a space where knowledge and community intersect. Libraries aren't just about books, they're about opportunity." The fundraiser was a success, saving the after-school programs and reinforcing Danny's belief in collective action. But personal growth wasn't just about public achievements. He struggled with typical teenage uncertainties, understanding his place in the world, managing relationships, and discovering his true self. His relationship with his family remained his anchor. His parents continued to encourage his community work while also pushing him to explore his own interests and emotions. They recognized that Danny's journey was about more than just being a local hero. It was about becoming a complete, compassionate human being. Courage isn't just about grand gestures, his father would often say. It's about showing up, being honest, and treating people with respect, even when it's difficult. By the end of his sophomore year, Danny had transformed. He was no longer just the kid who had stopped a robbery or organized community events. He was becoming a young man with a nuanced understanding of service, leadership, and personal growth. As summer approached, Danny reflected on his journey. The boy who once saw heroism as a dramatic intervention now understood it as a daily commitment to kindness, learning, and community. His teenage years were teaching him that making a difference wasn't about being perfect, but about being persistent and authentic. The rolling hills of Maplewood seemed to whisper with possibility, and Danny was ready to listen, learn, and continue his journey of making the world a little bit better, one small act at a time. Chapter 7: Forging Courage in Fire. The alarm blared through the station, a piercing cry that snapped Danny Harper into instant action. 3 years into his firefighting career, he had learned that every second counted. His muscles, honed by rigorous training and countless emergency responses, moved with practiced precision. "Harper, Rodriguez, you're on." Captain Miller's voice cut through the noise. Danny and his partner, Miguel Rodriguez, were already pulling on their protective gear, a well-choreographed dance of preparation they'd perfected over countless calls. The dispatch crackled to life. "Structure fire, 1245 Maple Grove Road, residential area, possible occupants inside." Danny's mind raced back to his early days in Maplewood, to the lessons of courage Mr. Rodriguez from the library had taught him. Courage wasn't about being fearless, but about doing what was necessary despite fear. The fire truck roared through the streets, its urgent wail clearing the way. As they approached, Danny could see the flames licking through the windows of a small two-story house. Smoke billowed black and thick against the afternoon sky. "We've got a potential family inside," the captain's voice came through their headsets. "Danny, Miguel, primary search and rescue." The heat was intense as they entered the burning building. Danny's training kicked in, low crawl, checking each room methodically. The smoke was disorienting, but his focus remained razor sharp. Years of physical conditioning and mental preparation had prepared him for moments like these. In the upstairs bedroom, a movement caught his eye. A child, no more than 5, curled beneath a bed. Danny's heart raced, but his hands remained steady. "Hey, buddy," he spoke softly through his mask. "I'm gonna help you, okay?" The rescue was textbook perfect. Danny carefully extracted the child, shielding him from debris and heat, communicating constantly with Miguel and the team outside. Within minutes, the child was with the paramedics, receiving oxygen and initial treatment. Later, at the station, the adrenaline began to settle. Miguel clapped him on the shoulder. "Nice work today, Danny. That kid might not have made it without your quick thinking." But Danny knew this was more than just another call. Each rescue was a reminder of the promise he'd made to himself years ago in Maplewood, to make a difference, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The emotional toll of firefighting was something Danny was learning to navigate. Not every call ended successfully. Some nights, the memories of near misses and lost lives would haunt him, but Mr. Rodriguez's words would echo in his mind. True courage isn't about never feeling fear. It's about doing what's right, even when you're scared. His fellow firefighters became more than colleagues. They were family. They understood the unique challenges of their profession, the way each call could change everything in an instant. They supported each other, shared the weight of their experiences. As the day wound down, Danny reflected on his journey. From the kid hero of Maplewood to a professional firefighter, he had never lost sight of his core purpose: to help, to protect, to make a difference. The station's quiet evening allowed time for reflection. Danny thought about his parents, about Mr. Rodriguez, about Jimmy Peterson, and all the people in Maplewood who had believed in him. Each of them had played a part in shaping the person he had become. "Just another day at the office," Miguel joked, breaking the moment of reflection. Danny smiled, knowing that for them, Just another day meant potentially saving lives, being there in people's worst moments, offering hope and protection. As night fell, the station settled into its familiar rhythm, preparedness mixed with anticipation, ready to respond at a moment's notice. Danny knew that tomorrow would bring another set of challenges, another opportunity to live out the values of courage and service he had learned so many years ago in his small hometown. Chapter 8: Return to Maplewood. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Maple Street as Danny Harper's fire department SUV rolled into Maplewood. The familiar landscape unfolded before him, the same rolling hills, weathered farmhouses, and community spirit that had shaped his childhood. After years of service in the city fire department, he was finally returning home. The town hadn't changed much, yet everything felt different through his experienced eyes. Each street corner held a memory: the gas station, where he'd first been dubbed the Kid Hero, the library where Mr. Rodriguez had mentored him, the school where he'd learned his first lessons about courage and community. His parents were waiting on the front porch, their faces a mix of pride and excitement. His mother, Sarah, wiped away a tear as Danny stepped out of the vehicle, still wearing his firefighter's uniform. His father, Robert, stood tall, his weathered hands clasped together, unable to hide his pride. "Welcome home, son," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. The reunion was warm but subdued. Danny knew his return wasn't just a personal moment. It was a homecoming for the community's hometown hero. Word would spread quickly in Maplewood, and he could already see curious neighbors peeking out their windows. That evening, at the local community center, a small welcome gathering had been organized. Danny was surprised to see familiar faces. Jimmy Peterson, now a local school teacher, stood among the crowd. Mr. Rodriguez, now retired but still sharp as ever, sat in the front row, his eyes twinkling with pride. "I always knew you'd do something special," Mr. Rodriguez said, approaching Danny during a break. "Not just because of your heroics, but because of your heart." Danny appreciated the sentiment. His years as a firefighter had taught him that true heroism wasn't about grand gestures, but consistent commitment to helping others. The skills he'd learned in Maplewood, compassion, courage, community, had been his most valuable training. The gathering wasn't just a celebration of Danny's achievements, but a testament to Maplewood's spirit. Local business owners, former classmates, and community members shared stories, reconnecting the threads of Danny's journey. "Remember when you organized that book drive?" Tommy Peterson, once a childhood bully, now a local businessman, approached Danny. "Never thought that kid would become a firefighter." Danny smiled, recognizing the genuine respect behind Tommy's words. Years of community service and personal growth had transformed their relationship. As the evening progressed, Danny shared stories from his firefighting career. He spoke not of personal heroics, but of teamwork, of the collective courage required to save lives. His experiences resonated with the community, reminding them that heroism wasn't about individual glory, but about serving something greater than oneself. Later that night, sitting with his parents, Danny reflected on his journey. Maplewood had always been more than just a hometown. It was the foundation of everything he believed in. The values of kindness, courage, and community that he'd learned here had guided him through every challenge. "I'm glad to be home," he told his parents, meaning every word. The town had changed him, but more importantly, he hoped he had changed the town. Not through grand actions, but through the small, consistent acts of kindness and courage that truly define a community. As midnight approached, and Maplewood settled into its familiar, peaceful rhythm, Danny knew his journey was far from over. This return was not an endpoint, but another beginning, another opportunity to serve, to inspire, and to make a difference. The streetlights flickered, casting soft shadows on Maple Street, a quiet testament to the enduring spirit of a small town, and the hero who had never forgotten his roots. Chapter 9: Reflection and Legacy. The golden afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows of the Maplewood Community Center, casting a warm glow on Danny Harper's weathered hands. At 35, he had seen more challenges and experienced more moments of both profound hope and heart-wrenching difficulty than most people twice his age. Today was different. Today was a day of reflection. Mr. Rodriguez, now in his 70s but still sharp as ever, sat beside Danny, his weathered hand resting gently on the younger man's shoulder. The room was filled with photographs chronicling Danny's journey, images from his childhood kid hero days to his recent firefighting achievements. "You know," Mr. Rodriguez said softly, "when I first met you in the library all those years ago, I saw something special. Not just courage, but a genuine desire to make a difference." Danny smiled, his eyes tracing the photographs that mapped his extraordinary ordinary life. Each image told a story of community, of connection, of the small acts of kindness that truly transform lives. His journey hadn't been about grand gestures, but consistent commitment. From standing up to bullies in school, to organizing community book drives, from rescue operations as a firefighter to mentoring young students. Danny had always understood that heroism wasn't about individual glory, but about collective progress. The room around him was a testament to that philosophy. Local students, firefighters, community leaders, and friends from Maplewood had gathered to celebrate not just his achievements, but the spirit of community he had consistently nurtured. Jimmy Peterson, once the bullied kid Danny had defended years ago, now a local school principal, approached with a folder. "I've got something you might want to see," he said, spreading out documents showing the community programs Danny had inspired over the years. Scholarship funds for underprivileged students, firefighter mentorship programs, community reading initiatives. Each program was a seed Danny had planted, now growing into robust trees of opportunity. "I never did this alone," Danny reflected, looking around the room. "Every person here, every mentor, every friend, we did this together." His parents, sitting quietly in the corner, exchanged a proud glance. They had always believed in their son's capacity for compassion, even when others saw just a restless, curious child. As the afternoon progressed, Danny spoke about his experiences, not as a hero, but as a member of a community. He shared stories of teamwork, of resilience, of the importance of believing in something larger than oneself. "Courage isn't about being fearless," he told the gathered crowd. "It's about doing what's right, even when it's difficult. It's about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. It's about understanding that we're all connected." Mr. Rodriguez, listening intently, saw in Danny not just the young boy who once discovered heroism in library books, but a man who had transformed those early inspirations into a life of genuine service. As the event wound down, Danny looked out over Maplewood, the rolling hills, the familiar streets, the community that had shaped him. He realized his journey was never about personal achievement, but about inspiring others to recognize their own potential for kindness. "Our legacy," he thought, "isn't measured in grand achievements, but in the small moments of connection we create." The sun began to set, painting Maplewood in warm hues of orange and gold. Another day, another opportunity to make a difference. Danny Harper smiled, knowing that the most powerful stories are not about heroes, but about communities that believe in the extraordinary potential of ordinary people.